Right, so no general theme to today's little ride out. Probably be a little extra video of this, I would have thought. And I was doing a bit of reminiscing the other day about what work were like back in the 1980s. And hey, I get a few people that know what I did for 30 years. Sort of say, what's the most realistic, the most accurate, the most true to reality cop programme, cop drama on TV? You know, because there's no shortage of them, is there? And a lot of them, probably the majority of them, I look at them and I think, I don't know who your police advisor is, if you've got anybody. But they are so far wide of the mark, it's ridiculous, and I have to stop watching. I mean, there has to be room for a degree of, shall we say, poetic license in the interests of drama and entertainment. But I don't think there's any excuse for getting it catastrophically wrong and giving people a completely wrong impression about how policing works. But aye, so folks sort of say, well, what's the most realistic one? Well, believe it or not, the answer to that question, as far as I am concerned, is Life on Mars. And Life on Mars and the follow-up, Ashes to Ashes, so that were policing in the 70s and then policing in the 80s. Without doubt, to my mind, as somebody that did police in the 80s, is the most accurate, because all the carrying ons that you'll have seen with Gene Hunt and well, with Sam Tyler in the 2 seasons of Life on Mars. That was set in sort of 73, 74, wasn't it? Something like that. And then with Keeley Hawes's character, Alex, in Ashes to Ashes. That friction in and amongst themselves, and that hubris and machismo in DCI Gene Hunt, it's absolutely bang on, let me tell you. I mean, back in I joined in 1983, and as a young probationary PC there, we, because there'd probably be about, there were five teams back then, 5 shifts, and each shift would have probably a couple of probationary PCs on it. So we sort of held the CID in awe, which was a little bit misplaced in some circumstances, because they did spend a lot of time smoking, supping, and doing God knows what else in the name of undercover work. Hey, aye, there was no shortage of that. But yeah, prior to that, if you got a shoplifter, you'd have to go to CID for advice, or if you had an arrest for some other sort of crime, maybe unusually you got to make an arrest for say criminal damage or some other form of theft or an assault, things of that nature. So you'd make an arrest, you'd have your prisoner in cells, then you'd need a bit of a game plan about the interview and the evidence gathering process and the rest of it. So you go see your sergeant, always your first port of call, your sergeant. Right, Sarge, got this prisoner in cells, I've locked him up for this, that and the other, and what should I do now? And the one thing you never wanted to hear, but you always did hear, was go talk to CID. Well, let me tell you, that used to fill you with dread. Because there were uniform at one side of the building and CID, and it was still the realm of the trench coat detective back then. Hey, I was used to talk out the side of the mouth and wink at you in between puffs on cigarettes, just like the CID office in Life on Mars. Hey, just like that. And yeah, it was just a big smoke-filled room, full exclusively of men. And there'd be detective constables and detective sergeants, and there'd be a DI, detective inspector, and in charge of all lot there'd be a DCI, detective chief inspector. And the one where I worked back in early 80s, he were an absolute bloody dead ringer for Gene Hunt. And so there was this empire, yeah, this empire of detectives in this here smoke-filled grotto, where anybody wearing a uniform below rank of inspector, basically, because even uniform sergeants would get a little bit sidelined when they went into the CID office. So you'd you know, you were persona non grata if you wore a uniform. You know, certainly that was the feeling you got the minute you walked in. Very intimidating. Hubris and testosterone and fag ash and smoke and stale whiskey everywhere. And they'd be there with feet up on desk, reading mucky book. But you'd have to go in, so Sergeant would say, yeah, go have a word with CID, you know, and your arse would fall out. Oh no. Because as soon as you walk through the door in CID, in your uniform, they'd all sort of look up from the mucky mags and they'd put their bloody tea-stained mugs down, and they'd look at you like you'd just crawled out from under a stone. They'd give you that withering look. And it was like that scene from, I don't know if you've seen that film American Werewolf in London, where they walk into that pub and music stops and all local knuckle draggers basically give them section 1 stare them out. It used to be like that when you went into CID. It were a fearful experience, and then you'd have to pick, because there might be a dozen detectives in there, and you'd have to think to yourself, well, bloody hell, which one am I going to speak to? And don't get me wrong, there were a couple, I have to say it was a minority, there were a couple that would be happy to help you, but if they weren't working that particular day and your only options were you know, one at snapping snarling reptiles in there. Oh dear. You'd sort of and they knew, of course, they absolutely knew the sheer terror that was coursing through your veins there. And you'd eventually, and this is how it bloody well used to pan out almost always. You'd eventually find a detective that would be prepared to stub his fag out and put his pot of tea down and speak to you. Right lad, what you got? Well, I've got Johnny Naughty Pants in cells, and this is what he's done. He's brayed somebody, they've got a black eye, and one thing and another, and he's not saying out, and da-di-da-di-da. Right lad, why have you come in here? Well, because Sergeant sent me through. Right, and what Sergeant said you should do? Well, he said that I'd probably have to go take a statement from the complainant, get the injuries photographed by Socco, and once I'd done that, I need to find a colleague and to go down to the cell area and to interview him, and depending upon what he says during interview, either go out and make some more inquiries to get some more corroboration, or if there's enough evidence or he admits it, to charge and bail him with the offence. And detective will say, "Aye lad, that's right, that's what you need to do, right, crack on." Hey, no word of a lie, that were it. But of course, what the sergeants were doing were obviously covering themselves. Because if I'd have made a dog's breakfast of the investigation, and something dire had gone wrong, then at least the sergeant would be able to say, "Well, I told him to go speak to CID, and they're the experts." And that were it. Hey, them were days. But yeah, what a I'm saying what a different world. I mean, when I left 30 years later, when I retired, it was a little bit different, I think it's fair to say. But back then, it were the old Rudyard Kipling job: east is east and west is west, and never the two shall meet. CID in uniform. And it were like the bloody it were almost like the walk of shame from the uniform office to the CID office, because you were that frightened. You were ashamed of yourself because you were that frightened about what lay ahead of you. Oh dear. Aye, never get away with it now. But to be fair, back then we didn't feel some collars. I think it's fair to say we certainly felt some collars. We certainly put some bad people away, and the amount of paperwork was, well, the bare minimum required to get the job done. There were certainly no endless statistical returns to complete for the Whitehall Mandarins. No siree. Just got on with the job.
Well, I hope that was of some interest to you. Just a little humorous tale from the past today, as for your general edification. If you did enjoy that, please click a like, please click subscribe. And in the meantime, and until the next time, please, if you're riding, ride safe. And remember, I'll see thee.